Awesome. We'll begin. Let us know if you can't hear us or if there are any audio problems, but welcome to the second STEAM Horizons lecture from SIP. Today we'll be joined with Bogi. Bogi will introduce herself and give you some background about everything that she's working on and what she's done. But today's going to be more of a conversational Q&A style. So I'll have a chat with Bogi, and then if you ever have any questions, please feel free to ask them at any time, and we can always answer them. Or also we can wait till the end. But Bogi, please introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here after 4 years. I was a SIP intern in 2019, and yeah, since then, a lot of things have happened in my life, and I can say that this program has been very influential in everything that I'm doing now, actually. And I think it was the best thing that happened to me throughout high school. So I hope that you feel or you will feel similar as well as you continue on your path into STEAM, and continue to grow as a researcher.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bogi, let's start off. Where are you from?
I am from Hungary, a very small town in the eastern part of the country called Hajdúböszörmény. Raja loves to pronounce this town because it's super fun. It has a lot of accents in it. But it's kind of far from the capital and from everything else. So I wouldn't say I had the best environment when I was growing up.
Wow.
And I just later found those opportunities, including SIP, that helped me to start growing in the directions that I was interested in.
Absolutely. So we can kind of go two ways or three ways. There's the age of the internet, how digital resources have been able to help people from around the world get access to programs and resources that SIP caters to and provides. And also maybe how did you find out about SIP? And then you're in America now. We are in person. Thank you for joining us remotely, but we can kind of highlight how you found out about SIP. What's it like being in America as opposed to being in Hungary? And yeah, I mean, let's run with that.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely true that the internet has opened up so many opportunities for everyone around the world. And I have been part of a few other programs in high school before SIP, including the New York Academy of Sciences high school programs. And they were also online for a global community. And actually, that's how I found out about SIP. Someone just made a post and I visited the link, and I was really happy to find out that it was open for everyone to apply, even international students. And I was even eligible for financial aid or scholarships to attend this program, which is also a huge part if you are an international student that
100%.
you have to consider. So yeah, that's how I found out about this program, and I applied. And I also got some sponsorships from Hungarian companies to cover my travel costs. So I was trying to really optimize this experience of coming to the US. But it was a really, really cool 2 months that I spent here. And I also realized in SIP that I want to study in the US because I just really liked the atmosphere, this open environment and the people. So and then I think I'm kind of like oriented towards more and more towards coming here and continuing my studies.
So you did SIP as a junior, rising
As a
junior?
rising junior.
Okay.
So I still had 2 years left.
What did you do the summer after?
Okay, so I actually want to jump back to the end of SIP for myself, because I started a project here about rip current detection. I've been interested in robotics and mechanical engineering and computer science. I would say since I was 11 years old, that's when I started learning coding. And I actually thought that I would continue my education as an engineering major, as a mechanical engineer. But then because of SIP, I think I just realized I got into a project about machine learning, deep learning, AI. And that was the first like college level research project that I did on this topic. And I think it was just an instant like fascination for me. And I just decided that I will go into software and AI specifically later on. So in that sense, it was very deterministic in my career path, this entire program and the project as well, because I had an interesting experience in the program. It wasn't like smooth all the time. If you want to, we can also talk about how to like navigate your internship.
Absolutely.
If you encounter some issues or some things that are unexpected. But what Raja said about like, you will get as much out of this program as you like put into it. So that has been 100% true for me as well. And I was lucky I decided to continue working on this project even after I returned to Hungary. I found some local mentors in Hungary who could still like help me on this path and continuing this project. So it kind of became like a collaboration at first.
Mhm.
And then I entered a bunch of competitions actually with this project. It was really cool. And I really encourage you to do that as well, if you can. And if your mentor also allows you to do that, because it's a really great opportunity for you to develop a bunch of other skills beyond SIP. That has things to do with research and presenting your research and public speaking and such things, or writing a paper even. And we have a lot of resources on how to get started on that too. In the US, there are also, there's a journal for young scientists who can publish their projects. So if you want to get started on those things, you should come to us and ask us how to proceed. Because it's going to be something that really stands out in your college applications, and also I think later on. So it's really worth doing.
And it's also kind of using the work that you're putting in for the 2 months of SIP after SIP, right?
Yeah.
So you can present that research, you can continue iterating on it, and you never know where you're going to be. You can be at a conference and you'll meet somebody that is doing some type of research that you already did, and then you can maybe continue working with them and go from opportunity to opportunity. So it's like, this is a very short and fun chapter in your life if you do SIP once or twice or 3 times, but you don't want to just do it and then like, okay, my hands are done, I'm good. You want to continue using what you learned and using the work that will come out of it and stay with you for the rest of your life, as Bogi has done.
Yeah, and that has been very true for me as well. So after I entered these competitions in Hungary, first I entered these national competitions that we have for young scientists, like conferences and things like that. And I actually ended up winning a bunch of first awards. So that was really cool.
Wow.
And that got me into international competitions like ISEF that you might know, or there's a one for the EU students, for the European Union. And there, unfortunately, COVID hit, and it was really hard to get the most out of those competitions, the international ones. But I was still there, at least remotely. And
still presented, still took part, and still got the experience.
Yeah, and some special awards as well. So even if my name is not going to be, out there in the outer space, yours might be.
Bogi is being humble. She's a celebrity. She's ranked in places. People are reaching out for articles. She's on this interview today. I would do a quick Google search and learn more about her.
I wouldn't, but
We're very
yeah,
happy to have her here. She's an alumni buddy for SIP 2023. She's in the Discord, so if you ever like to talk to her, you can DM her, you can have a conversation
yeah,
in a general chat. But she's a great resource and a great example of what 4 years after SIP looks like, right? So if you think about yourself, you're in high school, you're in SIP right now, you're planning for what you're gonna do next. You're trying to, oh, congratulations to everybody that did well in their AP scores today. But essentially, that's a certain chapter in your life.
Mm.
And the next chapter is something you'll learn about from Bogi today, right? What
yeah,
she's focusing on is she's in college right now. And what is she gonna do after college?
mhm,
And it's not that black and white. There's also
yeah,
a lot of stuff that she's doing in between, right? So this summer, she's got a packed schedule, but she's also at SIP for two weeks. So it's really fascinating to see what you can do with the opportunities available to you. And yeah, we should
yeah.
kinda get into that.
I really feel honored. Thank you for the kind words. But no, seriously, like this project is very influential, but also like don't feel like your life is going to depend on it, because for me, I feel like it was the first huge milestone, but it was a stepping stone for other things. So as Anand said, it's a great way to find new connections and network with people. In my life, when I entered these competitions and met some of the mentors there, I actually found someone who is still working at the Medical University of Vienna in Austria. And we just really like, he found the project really interesting, and we could talk about a lot of things in this field. And actually he ended up inviting me to be a research intern the following summer. So that's what I was doing the summer after SIP. I interned at the Medical University of Vienna as a machine learning intern. So my project was fairly similar to SIP in the sense that I still had to kind of like use similar skills. It was image processing or computer vision related as well. In some ways, it was about medical images, 3D medical images, and processing them and extracting features from them. So it was something really cool and exciting and new. And I also got to experience a different city, a different country. I got to travel somewhere to be an intern. And it actually turned out that my mentor, I accepted his offer, and afterwards he told me that he's actually from the same hometown as I was.
Wow.
So I was
Wow.
like, what a small world.
What a small world, but a big planet that you can travel and take advantage of a bunch of opportunities as Bogi has done. But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's really the people, and you never know where the people come from. But it's up to you to find those people and develop those relationships and really, again, as Bogi said, as Roger said, you get in, you get out as much as you put in. So really, show up to the Zoom meeting, show up in person, ask the questions, try to learn. No
Yeah.
question is a dumb question, but it's just putting in the effort.
and it's a great way to like connect with not just your research group, but other people or other people from SIP, because you never know if they end up being in the same field, then you might be really, really valuable professional connections to each other later on. And you'll have that common experience that you were in SIP in 2023. You shared that, experience, that history, and that is something very valuable. And I think this still like drives a bunch of things like professional life later
The
on.
networking,
The
right?
networking component.
When
Yeah.
y'all are all in the freshman class of Stanford in 2026, and you're like, hey, I did SIP in 2023. Remember the time when Bogi and Anand had a talk and they were talking about networking? Look at us now.
Yeah.
So it's moments like that. But speaking of university, let's talk about what you're doing now. What's your experience been like? Where are you studying? Just let's get into that.
Yeah. So because of COVID, my path, like the last, I would say like 1.5 years of my high school experience was kind of impacted by the whole pandemic situation. And I think it became increasingly hard to study abroad.
Yeah,
Um,
because the borders were shut
because
down.
yeah, obviously a
It's-
lot of resources and the borders and traveling and everything. So, but I still wanted to at least try and see what I can get out of this experience. I was also like aiming for, so the reason why I chose to study in the US was not just because I wanted to be here. It was more like professionally, I wanted to choose a school that has really good research opportunities in AI and machine learning. And that was specifically what I was looking for when I was like looking at the websites of the colleges, because that was the only way that I could actually visit these schools. And I made a list and I did all that. I did SAT, I did a TOEFL, the English language exam, and all that kind of stuff that you need to go through if you are doing the college application process. And I ended up being accepted into 2 colleges, actually. One of them was UCSC.
Wow.
With a scholarship, and the other one was Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And I did not get accepted into Ivy League schools. I was actually like, I had no clue how to do that. So I was like, my strategy was like, apply to as much as possible. I think I applied to like around 10 colleges or so, but it was still a lot because at the same time I was still doing ISEF, I was still doing all those like conferences and competitions and school, and like because I was in Hungary, I still had to do the Hungarian like school leaving final examinations, which is also a really big responsibility, and like it's really hard for people usually.
You had a lot on your plate.
But I had a lot on my plate. So I was not really, if I look back now, I think a better strategy would have been to like concentrate on fewer, but like really prepare for those. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you just want to try and see what you can get out of the situation. And I was accepted into these schools and I had to make a decision. And I think I based it on more like, Atlanta was in Atlanta is a big city. I had this pre-assumption that it's easier to find job opportunities in a big city. And it's easier to get around because I still don't have a driving license. Sorry. Yeah. No and
what's the reality? Break the truth to it.
I'm going to do it because you need it in the US. Yeah. But yeah, no. But the reality is that's not true, especially if you are in CS or something like technology related. Yeah. Because my experience as an intern after that at companies was more like, I got this job opportunity after my freshman year. I interned at Intel as a machine learning intern, and the team, well, most of the team was actually in Oregon, in Portland, but everybody was still kind of remote somewhere in the country. And this year, which is after my sophomore year, I'm interning at a drug discovery company, a startup company that has offices in Boston and New York. I spent 2 weeks in Boston at the beginning of the summer. So I'm always like traveling somewhere. And the year when I was working at Intel, I spent that summer in working from New York City remotely with the West Coast. West Coast. Yeah.
Wow, that's a fun summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
So there are no really like borders between states here. And I think I just realized that after I moved here.
Yeah. And opportunities and jobs. And in the world of post-COVID, everything being remote, right? There are 20 people on Zoom. There are 3 people in person. We'll show you them afterwards. But it just really goes to show what's available and what you can do, right? You don't necessarily have to be in the big city. It helps to get your foot in the door.
Sometimes, yeah. Also, depending on what your field of interest is, because sometimes like specific industries are more centered towards specific regions. Yeah. So I would say actually this area in the Silicon Valley would have been a really cool place for me to be as well, because of the tech environment and all the startups and everything. But it's not limiting your opportunities, because you can still come here anytime you want to as an intern.
Yeah.
During the semesters or during the summers. So yeah, you should really take advantage of networking and conferences and traveling, because that has been a huge part
Yeah.
since I'm
It's a giant perk
college.
of going down this route, right?
Yeah.
There's more to life than just conferences and stuff, but and education,
Yeah.
but to really have a holistic life, enjoy the time as well. Bogi now seems all calm and stuff, but she also has a younger brother who's doing the same thing. You gotta do the exit exams, you gotta apply to college, scholarships. It's a lot of stress, and there's a lot of unknowns, and you're competing with, it seemingly looks like everyone. Because again, I thought you were gonna say in a bigger city, there's more people applying for the same roles that you're looking for. There's more people that want to talk to the people you want to talk to. There's more people on the subway and bus that are all going to work at the same time you're going to. So there's a give and take to everything, but that's just what comes with life, right? And it's just going through that, learning through those experiences, building up your confidence, and then at the end of the day, performing. So when it's time to be in that interview, when you finally get that job and you have that seat at the table, what do you do with that, right? We focus so much on getting there, getting to university, but when you're there, what do you do with that? Everyone at SIP, you're at SIP, but what are you doing with that? So
also, I think it's kind of important to mention that some of you are, or most of you are very, very competitive. You are very like top students in your class or in your schools, in your states. You're going to the best schools and, all around the US. And that gives you a huge advantage, but that's also like, it doesn't mean that like, you need to always be in a certain place that people think is the best. Sometimes like, okay, I might need to rephrase this, but I also kind of thought or had this pre-assumption that, if I want to be among the best, I don't know, machine learning engineers or something, I need to go to MIT or I need to go to like, the top schools. And that is a really, like, top schools are great, don't get me wrong. Like they do have a lot of resources and alumni network and everything. But it's actually more about that than the quality of the education that you're getting, because you can get the same education or sometimes maybe even better, who knows, at like different schools or different places. And Georgia Tech is also, it's actually better than what I expected before. It has its own challenges, I'm not gonna lie. Like as an international student, I had other like, I guess, pictures in my head of how it's going to look like to study here that were completely false. So sometimes you just like jump and then later realize and try to adapt. But there are a lot of really good things that came out of it. So I do not regret this decision at all. And I think it really just got me to the next level and to set me on this path that I'm going on.
Yeah. What are some of those things that you learned after the fact when you landed that were different from your expectations? Like,
yeah, I think one of the biggest ones that I had to face as an international student, so I'm more saying this to them if they are on the call, is that if you come from a different cultural and like educational background, there are going to be differences. So it's not that easy to shift if you are not like fully prepared, and that takes extra time and effort to prepare for that. And I did see that some of the American students had a little bit of advantage when they were doing AP exams or like these different stuff that are, more important here and you hear about here, but nobody talks about them in Hungary. And that's just like an advantage in the first year in terms of your classwork, but nothing else actually. So all my they were actually really surprised how much research experience I had. I already had like a few publications, co-authored publications before I went to college, and those students didn't have that. So like it all like balances out. Everyone has their own strengths, and as an international student, you also shouldn't be discouraged by that the fact that you might be a little behind with your classwork, because it's not about the knowledge, it's about how the system is set up. So that knowledge and your skills and experiences still do count a lot. And I would say maybe even more so than like the classes themselves.
Yeah.
But you need to like kind of balance that and know that you do have your own strengths, you will have your own weaknesses all the time, but that doesn't make you any less
Any
or
less than
yeah,
your
or others. So
class.
like comparing yourself is never a good idea.
But we all do it.
We still all do it.
It's very tough not to.
Yeah.
But I did want to say one thing about the international students coming into a different university, different country, different educational system. At the end of the day, when you really think about it, it's what is university, right? It is like learning how to learn. And you can say that for all of education. So just coming in with like a first principles mindset, sometimes you have to unlearn some things and relearn them, but it's just maintaining that flexibility and adaptability, which is never going to stop. That's throughout all of life. It's never going to, everything's never going to be the way that it was. It's always changing. So it's up to you to really be able to adjust and be pushing forward as opposed to like pushing back. Because when you're pushing back, it's just, you can't hold it all back. So it's easier for you in the short and long run to just, always be open to new things, new ideas, and don't limit yourself, right? If Bogi was like, "Oh, I didn't take an AP test, I can't apply," then again, she would have missed all of this. But sometimes you have to do the harder thing and do an additional class that other people passed because they got a certain score on their AP exam, right? And you have to learn the material that they learned, and then you can apply it in the next class. And also everybody has a different journey, right? Some people take 5 years, some people take 4 years. I took 3 years. So everybody has a different path, and you don't have to compare yourself. But there was a really good question, and we can keep the questions coming. Also, please just ask them directly to us. But an intern asked, what was your SIP experience like back in 2019? And I can preface this before you answer.
Okay.
2019 was the last in-person year for SIP before the 3 pandemic years.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to even talk about it because you should probably see like the 3,000 pictures I took that summer.
Yeah.
In 2 months. And then you would get an idea.
Yeah.
But apart from the professional, like kind of like kickstart to my career that I already mentioned, it was a lot about also just exploring and, like being in a different country, seeing different beautiful places. California has so much to offer in terms of like nature and sites and everything. And we were, I think, lucky in the sense that we still had a full staff team back then. Now it's a little, it's different. It's different this year, but we're gonna recover and
Yes.
do with full steam again.
We're going 15 minutes ahead of everything. So everything gets to you just 15 minutes before it starts, but we're trying to get to 16 or 17 minutes.
Yeah. So and also there were less students, which also meant that over the weekends, approximately 10 students stayed on campus. And it was like really easy for us to do a bunch of trips. We are still planning trips for you, so don't worry, you're not gonna, be bored or miss out.
There's a difference between transporting 10 students on a weekend and 50 students on a weekend, right?
It's
10
understandable.
Students is one van. 50 students is a shuttle that you have to reserve ahead of time. So but these are good problems to have, right? We've just scaled like crazy, but now it's meeting the demand. But it's nice to look at how it was with 10 people, because the smaller the group, the more intimate and in-depth you can go. Exactly. But there are still like advantages to big groups too. So I think it's always fun to meet this many people from, also a bunch of international students now. Back then, I think we had like 4, and I'm still talking to them. I met my best friend 4 years ago in this program, Sarah Ryan Purcell. You might know her. This is a shout out. This is going to go on Instagram. Thank you, Sarah Ryan Purcell, for all your efforts and for being a bestie. And Aditi, the Indian students. So they became my best friends, and we still have our calls even after 4 years. I haven't met them in person. Unfortunately, not yet, but we are still planning. Never say never. Never say never. 2012. And
that experience in itself, like getting to know these really cool people and exploring a new country and exploring new places with them has been, I think,
The best
the
part.
best part, or the other part of my SIP experience. In terms of the project itself, I had a lab partner, and we were working on this project together. I had a mentor, a PhD student, and the faculty member, so a professor was also supervising us a little bit. And we did have a few, like, I would say, like, communication issues sometimes.
What do you mean?
Um,
Like between your group, fellow interns, or mentors, and how
I
we work?
think both,
Okay.
but it was also like, I think like a lot of them happened because sometimes because of lack of communication or miscommunication a little bit. So these things you should definitely pay attention to, and you should coordinate all the time with them, because it's going to be easier on everybody to work together. But I mean, I did learn from those mistakes as well. And there was a time when we just sat down and talked about it. Raja also helped with a misunderstanding. So, like, it's really easy to find help and resources and reach out. And you should, if you are experiencing any issues with your mentor, with your peers, you should definitely like reach out and tell us, and it's going to be fine. I promise.
In fact, it's only going to help you, right?
Yeah.
If you feel like you're struggling with communication, the solution is to communicate more, right? So maybe talk to your mentor, talk to your fellow interns. Hey, are you struggling with this? Because I thought this was going to happen here, but I never really knew. So I did it, but then I didn't do it. And so just examples like that, put it in the Discord, see if other people are doing things similar to you, having the same issues. Come to me. If I don't respond, please send it again. There's RAs, there's PAs, you can talk to people in person. If you want to set something up, if you want to set up co-working hours, if you want to work together in a group, take initiative and make that happen. We are here to support you. And again, everything is here for you. So whatever you want to do, you should do it.
It's a huge community. So you will definitely find the resources or the people who can help you or you can work with, maybe to brush up on your coding skills or anything else really, because we do have a lot of expertise and a lot of people here who can help you.
Both in person, sorry, not to cut you off, both in person and remotely. So yesterday in person, there was a group of 6 interns with an RA that were working on leak coding problems together. And they're all learning Python and helping each other. And one person's struggling and somebody else helps them with that problem or to find the solution. So it's a great community, and they went on for like 2-3 hours. So just experiences like that are really helpful in development and just camaraderie too, because it's difficult to do these things on your own, but to have your peers, and you're not only growing your skills, but you're growing as people and you're growing as friends, right? That's similar to the experiences Bogi had and the interns are having this year. So if you feel like you're not having those experiences, again, it's not too late. Just reach out. If there's a group, just join the group. If there's an event, join the event, and just, maybe be like, hey, I'm interested in this, and somebody else that's also interested in that will come together, and then you go from there. So and also, like, the mentors can be really different too in their approaches on how they like to coordinate the work. Some are more hands-on, some are more hands-off. And you guys as interns have a bug right here.
That's like, I think, a mosquito actually.
Oh no.
Maybe it already bit me a little bit.
Oh no.
I think I'm gonna survive. Yeah, so they have different approaches to how they like to do things, but you also have different like needs and
learning styles.
Communication helps with that a lot, to find like the common ground and do it the way that it's like comfortable for all parties involved.
Set up Zooms. If you have a question, if you need a one-on-one conversation, if the emails aren't working, ask your mentor, hey, can we meet on Zoom? Can we do a group call? Just really take advantage of the time. And
they do like understand it, I think, that it's different to work with high school students, or like college students or grad students or PhD students. So you shouldn't have the same expectations towards yourself, because I think I also did in a way, like as a high school student, I came to my first research project and I instantly like kind of felt like the pressure to do the same things or have the same level of professionality as a PhD student and approach to things. And that's just not going to happen, and not quite, because you do need those like years of experience to get to that level, and it's normal and it's fine. So,
But we just want it now.
but it's cool to start early. So I think you do still have a huge advantage compared to students who are not doing research at this age. Yeah.
That's a really good point. A question is, do you think it is hard to major in computer science, and is it competitive to get into that major? Yes and yes, but no, you can go.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually, because I've been talking to like other CS majors about this, and they raised some interesting points about like, there are so many people doing this major, especially like also like Georgia Tech. I think like half of the school is probably computer science.
Wow.
Maybe I'm just exaggerating a little bit, but still like we have the largest department.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And there are a bunch of people working in this industry, but it's also really, really diverse. So if you go into like computer science, there are so many directions, to specialize in. And I honestly didn't really feel that kind of competitive pressure all the time, even though like I can see that, like there are interns who are competing for, again, the top positions at Google, like they are training on lead code to like, I'm personally, I think I'm not the best like coder or programmer per se. You could find someone who's faster than me for sure. But you can still learn it. And if you kind of have that kind of thinking or logic,
you'll be able to
figure out the rest. And as I said, like everybody has their own kind of strengths. So even if you're in this field, you don't necessarily have to be that like stereotype coder person. Like, for example, I think my strengths are more in like researching or understanding or finding those connections, reading about ideas, putting it together, managing projects, communication skills, presentation skills, a lot of things that you would think might not be the most important. But as you like come together and work as a team later on in industry or research or wherever, founding a company even, those skills will really like add together, and everybody will have their own like special expertise that they can bring to the table. So I would say that don't feel discouraged if you think you are not like the stereotypic programmer type and you are still interested in CS. But that's true for all like majors and other fields too. I think what matters on the long term is more, I know it's kind of cliche, but it's the passion for doing things. So if you are interested and there's like, you have motivation to read more, to do more, to explore more, you're going to go far, further than those who have like really good skills in the beginning, but have no motivation or lack the passion to continue.
Also, that was a really good answer. And that's kind of like the definition of confidence. So like, again, when you apply, when you do things, it's like, even if there are other people, you are still you, and you have to, whether it's one person in front of you or you're interviewing with 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 people, you still have to show up and show them what you have and the skills you have, because you really can't think about everybody else. You can only think about yourself. It is competitive. That's where the future is heading, but it's better to be in it and where the ball is rolling as opposed to on the sidelines and missing it completely. So take on the challenge. It's a fun challenge, right? There are so many opportunities, but then again, like Bogi said, it's not one singular role. It is not that stereotype. The closer you get, the more you'll see the different avenues, the different paths. You don't have to be the founder of Google, right? The tech industry is so big. Find a niche, find a path that you're interested in. Machine learning. Bogi started that back in 2019. Look at it now. It is the hot thing. Everyone knows what ChatGPT is. So even if it's not the hot topic now, there's always something around the corner, and just you want to be in it. When there's a rocket ship, doesn't matter what seat you have, you just want to be on it. So,
and I was also very insecure about it. Like I think I still am in some ways. And also like I guess, like just the stereotypes as well, like coming from a different country, being a woman in this field, like all those things are kind of, you have to like
There.
face it
Yeah.
and somehow, like develop a mindset around it,
Yeah.
because everybody's going to have an opinion.
Mhm.
But what matters at the end of the day is your own opinion.
Yeah. And the
to
work.
yourself and the work
and
that
your
you
work.
put into.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I had another thought. I had another
I'll
thought.
come back.
Yeah. Yeah, I just read the next question and I think I just forgot.
Ria, you're throwing it off. All right.
Never mind.
Ria, we'll come back to your question, but are there any other questions? University, being an international student, career, figuring things out, applying to jobs. Oh, as an international student, is it possible to get, is it possible?
Make new friends.
Making new
Sure.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, it's, who wants to be Bogi's friend? I'm very lucky to be considered Bogi's friend.
Thank
So,
you.
very nice.
Please don't raise your hands.
I picked her up from the airport. We had In-N-Out. She hasn't had In-N-Out since 2019.
Yeah.
So one in California, one in SIP will take you to In-N-Out. But it's like experiences you can share like that, whether it's related to the work that you do, but
Mhm.
also it doesn't always have to be, right? I'm not a CS student. I haven't studied with Bogi. I've come across her through opportunities like SIP, right? But just developing those relationships, working together, and then finding similarities where we're similar,
Mhm.
and also helping each other where I have weaknesses, Bogi has strengths, and vice versa. So just developing relationships like that doesn't necessarily have to be the people you grow up with, the people in your same high school class, but in life, the people you come across. And it's very lucky when you come across people like Bogi and the people you will come across, but it's like a life lesson, and that's the best part of living, right? It's not really what you do. It's not really what you've achieved. It's the people you come across and how you spend your time.
I do remember my thought now. So it was about impatience. And like at this age, it's very easy to feel very impatient.
Yeah.
Because you are just entering a field and you want to be among the best, and that's normal. And I think that also like, drives you for a few years, or like that's there and that's going to motivate you to do it. But also I would also say now, after 4 years after SIP, and having that experience and having done some work in the industry and research and stuff like that, you should really be patient sometimes, and kind to yourself, because it's just always the case. Like a lot of people say that you have to put like 10,000 hours into it, or like 10 years to be among the top experts, no matter what you do. Like it doesn't, there can be some differences, but like the message is that nobody's going to be a top expert in like, half a year or a few months. So
there are a few, but you don't necessarily have to be that one person.
And that doesn't mean you're not going to be
It's
successful or happy or, like whatever you want to achieve in life. So
it's just what you optimize for. Sometimes you want the end result
Progress.
so much. Have you muted? Sometimes you want the end result so much that you'll miss the entire journey, right? And that's another cliche. Like I did it. I graduated in 3 years. I put my 10,000 hours in by 24. And when you finally get to the other side, you realize that there's nothing there. And you're like, okay, now you question yourself, because you're like, why did I miss out on everything else? Because you optimize for one specific thing. But then again, it's not too late.
And
it's
now
never
he's
too late.
reliving it through you
Yeah,
guys.
now I'm reliving it, right? If you see everything on SIP, I'm the one having the most fun. But again, I didn't go to SIP as a high school student, right? I graduated college, and then I finally get my first SIP experience. So I'm getting in a different facet, but just in a broader sense. Really take the time to optimize for learning, and you don't have to get the end result right away. Focus on growth, 10%, 20%, 30%, getting better month after month, year after year, and you'll find yourself in a position that you wouldn't even have imagined.
But like also like sometimes it can happen that if you try, you will succeed in a way. So there's a chance, like compared to as if you don't try,
You have to try.
You need to try.
Yeah.
And like I also there was a question in the chat. I think the way I came to America, like landed, in Atlanta at Georgia Tech, was completely random. because I just sent in a bunch of applications. I got a few back. I got in, but I still didn't have, at that time when I received the decision that I was accepted to these colleges, the reality was I still had no money to go to college. So I still had no funds. My family is unfortunately not able to support me with my tuition. So I had to figure it out. And I still had like a few months left to figure it out, because I was in my senior year. You get the regular decision emails around March, April. So, and I graduated in May, and then I was still trying to figure it out. I did reserve my spot, and then I applied to a Hungarian scholarship actually that was supporting studies abroad. It started a year before I was applying, and I did like go through the entire like interview process, and then they had a selection camp. That was an interesting thing. If anybody's interested in like the scholarship itself, you can talk to me after this talk. But I got my decision mid-July. I was again in Vienna doing a second internship with them, with the research group, and I started working on a project that is now actually still active. So I'm still presenting this project at conferences in September in Vienna and in Chicago in a few weeks.
Wow.
So yeah, so like that was, I got the decision mid-July, and then I had a month left till mid-August to organize everything, my visa, my flights, I still had no accommodation in Atlanta, and I was super stressed.
Flying to a new country to start.
Like to start a new life, basically. So yeah, I mean, things happen, in life, both good and bad, and you just want to make the most out of it. And I think the internship experience was also kind of similar, because I had no clue. Like I came here in August, and people were already talking about applying to internships for next summer. And I was like, guys, it's still summer. Like it's a year from now.
Yeah.
Is it normal? And
It's
apparently,
Silicon Valley.
Apparently it is in Silicon Valley. Yeah. And like top companies. So I just started, like basically following the crowd, we could say, because I started the resume prep and I started doing things that they suggested. And somehow through connections, through conferences, actually conferences are a really, really good resource to getting internships as well, because you can meet the recruiters in person. You can talk to them, you can showcase your skills, and it's a lot better to have that experience and have someone from inside the company to advocate for you if you have that connection with them, than like just applying through an online platform. So I really do recommend that, and that's how I got my first internship. And yeah, I landed in an internship and I accepted it in November, but I was like actively applying and working on getting an internship, because I still needed money too. And the experience too, don't get me wrong, but no, sometimes you do have to do things to like manage and figure out and go with the flow and
make it happen.
Yeah, make it happen. So
yeah, really good questions.
Yeah.
In-person crowd. I'm gonna shift the camera to you guys. Do you guys have a question? Somebody has to have a question.
I don't really have some questions. Both of my sisters went to sit, and then they both went to college in the US.
Wow. These are the three people. And also the thing about university is like, if you're in a CS class, this entire room would be filled. There would be people sitting on the set. It is crazy. So again, just going where the future is headed, studying skills that are very helpful for a career post-college.
I think you said that there are some challenges that you face, where I mean, they go to school, I'm like, you have to find first as well. So I wanted to like some perspective of like what is.
I think Georgia Tech is a very diverse school. There are a lot of international students. The campus itself, to me, I've spent most of my time on campus actually. So now I start to feel like, okay, so everything is about Georgia Tech. It's like, if you like that kind of college experience, I mean, I think it's true in most colleges in the US, they really have like a school spirit. And I didn't really have that before I came here because I was just culturally differently
Yeah.
like wired. But I did get into this like huge community that have, you know, like like a lot of sports, a lot of really cool clubs. So you have access to a lot of things through the school. And I did find a lot of good friends too. So I would say it's a really like, even though I wouldn't have thought that I'm like, you know, that's that type of student who is fitting into this kind of culture, it's really diverse and you'll find your crowd, you know. And I think that the challenges I faced were more like about my academic life and how I like started to like get used to the system and be successful in it, because the way they did like testing was different from what I was used to. I have never studied in English actually. So up until, you know, I graduated a high school in Hungary, from a high school in Hungary, and I was studying in Hungarian my entire life. So in the beginning, in the first few months, I think I did like face a little bit of those challenges to like learning new vocab and, you know, like stuff like that took some time to get used to, but and like figuring things out on campus as well, how to do things, how to get access to what I needed. But you know, that's only a few months, and then you get into the system and you're part of it, and you really like start seeing those things that you need or that you're looking for. And I think that's true for most colleges actually. Hopefully, but you can also change. So if you don't like your place that you get into for the first time, you can transfer. So there are no like, you know, limitations as to what you can do. And it doesn't matter if you graduate from college in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, like, you know, there are people who are doing study abroads or internships and they graduate later, but they have that resume when they graduate with full of things, and they are going to be much more, you know, I don't know, like as a
better conditions.
better conditions to finding jobs and for life.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's really the experience, right? It doesn't, like, it's good to get good grades. That only helps you for the next class. But in terms of life, like in a job interview, they're not going to go down your transcript and look at your grades. They're going to ask you about what you would do in this certain situation, this certain problem, this certain example. So it's really developing those skills and knowing how to act and take on challenges, which you learn through the experiences that you undergo in college.
And also, like, there's a consideration that for like some in-state students, or, you know, like it's much cheaper than an Ivy League school, and you still get really good education, like really good quality education. And a bunch of them go on studying, you know, like do their master's degree or PhD at the top schools. So I wouldn't say like, you know, there's a trade-off, but sometimes you like have to like figure out what is best for you at the time, because sometimes you don't want that student debt, you know, when you're 19, like that's completely normal. And sometimes it's a wiser decision to go one step at a time and try to find what's best in your life situation
at that current moment in time too, what you prioritize.
Yeah.
So there are certain things that might be more important to you that aren't important to somebody else, and also that institution doesn't serve those values. So just really figuring it out what works for you, big picture, and then going through with that. So, it is 9:53. We can continue with some Q&A. Any other questions? Is it more competitive to study if you double major in engineering and economics? It's always going to be competitive, right? So it's just like.
But I would say it's also more niche, right? Because less people are doing that. So.
Yeah, but now you put it on the Zoom chat, so everyone here is going to double major. So you just ruined it for yourself.
It's not for me.
But again, that's just something similar to what Bogi said. If you really want to take advantage of the opportunity to take the time and do 2 majors, this is the time to do it. So if you're up for the challenge, that's going to be a lot of work, but it's only going to leave you better conditioned for the workforce. And you're going to be in a better position to not only apply for computer engineering jobs or engineering jobs, but also finance, fintech, whatever the future is going to, whatever the future is going to hold.
But also, like on the long run, like whatever interests you at the moment might actually be like something that is like really useful for you later on. And you don't know that right now, but but you're going to find out later. So I would say like following your intuition and following what you feel is right is probably the best way to go. Also with college applications, some people just want to like tailor their profiles to the college so much that they like forget that it's not you that's for the college. It's also for like, there are so many options, and you're going to get into the ones where they feel like you're a good fit. And I think you should trust the process, because there are so many things that do not depend on you. So if you don't get accepted somewhere, it doesn't mean that, you wouldn't be a
You're
good
not good
student
enough,
there,
yeah.
or you're not good enough, or all those negative thoughts that sometimes come with this situation. But if you like get into somewhere and they welcome you there, it's much better to be in a place like that. Like I just got here and they drove up to San Francisco airport. He took us to In-N-Out. Like it's, the kindness and the people and everything that will make you feel so good
Mhm.
about your life and where you are
Yeah.
at right now.
And we're a small nonprofit in a very big institution, right? So you just have to find a group, find your people, find an opportunity, and you don't know what's going to come out of it, right? Yeah. Good questions. Should we do a rapid fire round? Does anybody have any rapid fire questions for Bogi? Let's do in person.
In person.
Just like stuff you want to learn. It doesn't have to be academically inclined, but
Well, wait, you said what major did you take?
Computer science
Okay. And I don't know.
with a focus on AI and machine learning. So at Georgia Tech, we have these threads, and I chose intelligence and theory, which
Ah,
is like kind of like a specialization, and it's full of math and machine learning.
is Georgia Tech very like sports and like football team?
They are
basketball
very
team?
sport
And-
oriented.
and Do you,
I'm not though.
have you,
Varsity.
what'd you say?
They have to go to varsity.
Oh, wow. So you've not gone to any of the events. So whenever
They
there's
have
cool
huge
spirit,
stadiums.
yeah, and you've never gone.
I might have gone like once or
All right, there
twice.
you go. Bogi, you gotta make
I
the
went to a
time.
basketball game. I went
Wow.
to like an Atlanta Falcons game to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in
Wow.
Atlanta
That's the
with
NFL.
friends.
Yeah,
And we were in the cheer, like
the crowd?
in the section where there are, the
cheerleaders.
the
Okay.
fans section.
Mhm.
And they were throwing like beer and all kinds of stuff all over to people.
Yeah,
And I was like, okay, like that's
Hey.
good, but maybe it's not for me.
yeah. It was
But
wild.
I don't judge people who enjoy
Yeah.
that. So
It was a fun time.
yeah, it was with friends. It was fun. Yeah.
So you've got 2 more years of college to go. What are some things that you want to accomplish? Some goals that you've set for yourself? What's the future look like?
Oh, that's exciting. That's a good question. Yeah, as if I wasn't constantly thinking about this. I do want to get a PhD at some point. At this, like right now, like my plan was to graduate from college in 4 years, because as an international student, it's kind of impossible to do it, or very, very hard to do it earlier. Because just like all the classes I have to take coming in with 0 credit hours. And I wanted to go into PhD directly. Assuming that it's going to be fine for me since I'm doing research, since I'm like a rising junior in high school. But the reality of things is like I'm exploring many fields in computer science, in machine learning, and I'm just trying to find the topic that is most interesting to me, that I feel like the right topic is for me. And it's not that easy, because sometimes you need to pivot, sometimes you need to it takes time to really immerse yourself in certain things. And at this moment, I'm not exactly sure if I should, jump right into a PhD after I graduate, but I still have time to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I still have like 2 years left until graduation. So this might change. I might still go into a PhD, but I might not. So I do consider the option to do a master's first, continue exploring different stuff and finding the right person, the right supervisor, the right school, the right lab to do my PhD program with. and also the topic that I can do because it's a big commitment.
Mhm.
Like PhDs in the US are, 4 or 5 years
Mhm.
usually, sometimes 6,
Yeah.
depending on a bunch of factors. But it's a big commitment of your life, and I do want to like be really sure that I will be able to finish and that I will get, the most out of it. So I'm also thinking about starting a company at some point. I'm not sure about what, the mission would be, but I am interested in building startups, and I think that's a really, really cool way to get the technology into action and into like, to the people and to apply it. So I'm a little bit torn between like the theoretical approach and like actually like helping people and trying to make something useful with it. So, and I do think this like delivering the technology from the labs to the people is also a really important process.
Mhm.
So I do have a lot of really big ideas and perspectives, and now I think I am regaining some of my motivation and strengths that can be a little lost
Yeah, along the way.
So if you are in college and you experience in your first or second year that your life is falling apart, it's normal.
Yeah.
Like welcome to life, I guess. So yeah,
No,
but it's not the end of the world. It's just like a completely normal like phase that happens psychologically in your brain, and like, at this
it's a
around this
process you have
age.
to go through and you
Yeah.
learn. But the way you answered it is just, there's so many factors and variables that go into every decision, right? We talk
Yeah.
about the end goal, we talk about the PhD, we talk about the college you're gonna go to. But the amount of work and thoughts, that's where the energy goes to. And the energy gets drained from. But
Mhm.
yeah, just
And you should try, like you will know after you tried something,
Mhm.
or you will have a better idea about those options.
you will
Like,
definitely learn, even if it works
Yeah.
successfully or if you fail, because failing is just, again, learning what didn't work and then trying again.
like I did this internship with Intel, like a big company, and I kind of thought that, like I wanted to try that. There were a lot of, advantages of doing that internship. I did learn a lot, and it was intellectually challenging. I did make a lot of money. It was like a cool thing to do after my first year, but I also realized I wasn't passionate enough about the topic, and I'm not really the type of person who like really enjoys climbing the company ladder for years.
Yeah.
So that's just me, but like I did realize this and then pivot to something else. So now I'm working at a startup company,
Yeah.
and I love the environment, and I feel like it's much more something that I can imagine myself in 5 to 10 years, or if I'm working in the industry. But I still have other like ideas of like what to try, like research and development with big companies like Google
Mhm.
that usually take like PhD students or older students. So that's something that I still look forward to exploring, if it's something that I would like to do.
We'll do our last question from Avril. How do you deal with imposter syndrome?
Oh my God. Okay. I think we touched on this topic a lot today in this conversation.
Is there
I don't know if it ever goes away.
Yeah.
Because, you can always do more. I think it's just trying to trust the process, trust yourself helps a lot with it. So as you experience a lot of obstacles that challenge your views on life and yourself, you realize to what is the best way for you to prioritize between different fields and different stuff in your life. I think that helps with imposter syndrome as you grow older and wiser. But I don't know how to phrase this, because like it's always a tough thing to handle. But if it makes you feel better, other people also feel it. Like very successful,
You're not alone.
really, really successful people also do have imposter syndrome that you wouldn't even think about. So I think that's cool, because to a certain extent it empowers you. But if it gets too big, that's usually where the problems start.
It keeps you honest, but you don't want it to be like, you don't want to be like
you need to have confidence, but
Yeah.
you also need to like have
Intellectual humility
hu-
and
yeah,
self-awareness.
yeah, humility
And just make sure you can see the forest from the trees, right? Sometimes
and
you just,
respect, a lot
Yeah.
of respect towards what you are doing, your career and other people, and also people from outside your field. Like I do meet this problem now that as I'm working with like different research groups and different professors, as if they like kind of look down on stuff that other people
Yeah.
are doing. And honestly, this is not something that I can, like it's not something that I think is good
yeah,
because
I have a
it
theory on
doesn't
that
help.
too.
You
It
can
does
learn
not help.
from
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
So you can learn from anyone, even from people that you wouldn't necessarily think
Yeah.
that can add something valuable to your life. They still can, I assure you. And I think Raja is probably actually, they met Raja, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Something,
yeah.
yeah, virtually or in
Yes,
person.
everyone knows who Raja is.
Yeah. So he's like, to me, he's a huge role model on that. And like, he's the type of person who makes you feel really good about yourself and what you're doing.
Mhm.
So if you talk to him, he's a very, very well accomplished man,
And balanced as well,
insane,
yeah.
and still makes you feel like you're inspired.
And you're an equal.
And
He's never
yeah.
gonna have that, hey, I've accomplished this, you've accomplished nothing.
He
so
never
you're
looks
talking
down on
up.
you.
Yeah, he's never talking
Yeah.
down to you. It's always, hey, what can I learn about you? What can you learn?
And I want to be like, I want to follow his example on that. So I think he sets a really good example for all of us to how to be a really good professional and a really successful person, but also a really good person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll end it with that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bogi, for your time. Thank you for everyone that joined us. Thank you for the in-person crowd.
Yeah.
This was
hope
a
you
great,
enjoyed it.
this was a great session. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you for today.
Thank you, Vivi.